Okay, so it's been a while since I've done a lesson in this style, this sort of open, spacey vibe kind of jam thing. How's that for a title? Normally when I'm sitting around the house, I'm playing bluegrass or I'm playing, blues or, some kind of soul music. I don't usually play in this style, but I like listening to it and I like playing it when I get into the mood to do that. And that's what I did for this week. Is I wanted to create something kind of open and fun to play and actually kind of simple. There's 3 techniques that are used in this. I'm going to go through those throughout this lesson, and they're all things you already know how to do. Maybe it's just a different way of thinking about them. So we're going to explain it over the course of 2 videos. In this video, we're going to break down the first part of that. If you like the second video, as well as the tablature and the MP3 jam track so that you can put it all together and practice everything, you can get those things by going to activemelody.com, go to the weekly lessons page, and do a search for EP442. Alright, so this song is played in the key of E, and there's only 2 chords that are used, and actually these are chords that are not in the same chord family. They're chords that are, one would be considered like a borrowed chord, I guess. So we have the E chord, which is the key of the song, and then there's a C chord, which wouldn't typically fit into the E family, but it's that weird, it creates like a weird pull when you go from the E to the C. I love that sound. And so that's what we're doing, is playing those 2 chords. And we're going to be using those 3 techniques that I mentioned in the intro. The first is playing those 2 chords in different spots on the neck. Pretty easy to do. We're going to be using the E triad and the C triad. I'm going to show you in 2 or 3 spots how you can find them, visualize them, and then target certain notes from those chords. The second technique that you mix with the first technique is mixing the minor pentatonic scale, the E minor pentatonic scale, because the song is in the key of E. So we're going to be doing that and playing that in a few spots. And then the last technique is using a note from the C Lydian scale or Lydian mode, which I know some of you are familiar with your modes and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about, and some of you have never even heard of that. I'll explain more about that as we get into it. It's not complicated. I'm going to make it very simple. But those are the 3 techniques that we're going to use to create this sound. And there actually is a 4th element, now that I think about it, which would be not playing anything, just open space. And so we'll kind of call all of those things out as we get into this. All right, so let me just mention tone. I am going to get some questions on this if I don't. I have really 2 things that are going on. One is some heavy overdrive, and then the second is delay. So you can hear there's a trailing delay there. And it's a combination of those 2 things that give you all of that sustain, that kind of lasts while you hit a note that rings out for a while. It's that delay that gives you that. Now, I don't usually play with delay. I'm not very good at it. I like the sound of it. I think it's a pretty cool sound. It's just not my thing. I usually just go straight into an amp and play whatever sound I can get that way. Just because, maybe because I'm lazy, I don't know. I like the sound of just something kind of raw and pure. But anyway, that's what's going on from a tone perspective. I am using the Kemper Profiler, so everything's going through that. I don't have any pedals or anything in front of me. Okay, so we're in the key of E, and we have those 2 chords I mentioned, an E chord and a C chord. Before I jump into this first little phrase, let me just play it so that you can get the sound in your head, and then we'll discuss it. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to learn sounds like this. All right, so what is this? Well, first of all, I'm barring on the 9th fret, and first 4 strings, and I'm picking the 4th string, and then I'm plucking with my ring finger the 2nd string. Just playing those 2 notes. Where are they coming from? Well, remember, we have 2 chords, right? So the first chord is an E chord. So I'm picturing, in my mind, the E chord right here using the A shape out of Caged. And so when I look at that, where I've got my pinky here, that's how I make the chord, there's a triad, which is your E triad. It's your E chord. So I'm just playing strings 4 and 2 out of that chord. Sometimes it's nice to leave one of the notes out. It gives you a little more space, and you can hear them. It doesn't sound so muddy, I guess. So those are the first 2 notes, and then a half bend. So 9th fret, 2nd string, half bend, which means I'm only going up 1 fret to the 10th fret, bend and release, Now, what is that? Well, I was thinking about, there's different ways we could look at it. We could say that's a note in the E major scale. That'd be one way to look at it. But just to keep it simple, we're sticking to those three techniques that I talked about. I'm thinking of this as a chord shape from the E, that would be an E sus4 chord. So if I were to play an E chord, and it's like this, and if I add my ring finger or whatever finger here to the 10th fret 2nd string, that would be a sus4. Which is just an embellishment really off of that chord. It gives it a little character. And so if I look at that note, then I can bend into it like that with one string. So that's what's going on so far. Everything is over the E chord. Now the song switches to the C, and what I played. And when you hear that for the first time, it really catches your ear because it's unexpected. That C chord doesn't really fit in the E family, and then bending into it, it just really creates a, and I actually got that from David Gilmour. That's something you hear a lot in Pink Floyd, just his really clever bends and just trying to, you know, figure out something that'll just grab your attention. So what I'm doing is I'm on the 7th fret 2nd string, and I'm doing another half bend, bending up to this note. So let's think about what's going on here. We started with this E triad, right? The song then goes to a C, so what I was picturing was the C triad right here. What are these notes? It's your C bar chord. We're using the E shape. So it's the E shape out of Cage, but we're only playing strings 4, 3, and 2. Okay, so we have triad number 1, which is your E, triad number 2, which is your C. And to get to this note, which is your G note, I'm gonna bend to that by going like this. Just a half step down and bending up, just to kind of mirror what I did for the first bend. So the first one, it was like that, and then the second one. And then I slowly release it so that I come back down to that 7th fret 2nd string. Just know that there's this one note we're going to use, which is an F sharp, and it colors that C chord in a very kind of sad, kind of dreamy vibe. It's really kind of hard to describe some of this. But basically, Lydian mode is just the same as the major scale. It's the C major scale. But you take the 4th interval, 1, 2, 3, 4, and you sharp the 4th. That's it. That's all C Lydian is. So hear how different that sounds? It makes that major scale. It makes that major scale have a dreamy, kind of sad, unresolved kind of vibe. And you hear that quite a bit in film scores and those kinds of things. John Williams, I think of him using Lydian in quite a bit of movie film scores. And I think it's because of that dreamy sound that it creates. But the thing that you have to remember, if you don't want to get into modes, is just know it's that one note, that F sharp, that pulls your ear. But don't worry so much about the terminology. What you really need to know is what that sound is. That's that characteristic of the Lydian sound. And the only way you can do that is just by listening to it and playing it. Now here's one other little side note, is C Lydian mode is the same as the G major scale. It's the exact same thing. I'm going to put 2 lessons up if you want a deep dive on modes. It's a part 1 and a part 2. And you can check that out and go into further detail on that if you want to. So I'll put those up on the screen right now. Check those out. Otherwise, let's get back to the lesson. Okay, so we have... Now this is just going into the E minor pentatonic scale. We're going from pattern 2 back down to pattern 1. And so what I'm doing for E, so it's E minor pentatonic scale, pattern 2 and 1. So I'm starting here on the 3rd fret, 2nd string, doing a hammer onto the 5th fret. And then we're going to do a slide from the 4th fret, 3rd string with my middle finger down to the 2nd fret. And then watch this. Now, I could have went, if I wanted to go pure minor pentatonic for the whole thing, but I wanted to throw in that 3rd, which would be the major 3rd, that note from the E chord. I don't know why, my ear just heard that. Actually, my finger just followed my ear on that one. So that's just the notes out of that E chord. 2nd fret, 3rd string, down to the 1st fret, and then 2nd fret, 4th string. And then open 6th string, which is your E. So that sets you up now for the E chord. So we've gone from the E to the C and we're back to the E. And then I came on and hit that open 1 string. And notice I'm just holding the E chord with my left hand, and there's just so much space that's happening here. Nothing is being played. I like that. It just opens it up so that you can kind of get into the mood. And then watch this. That's the next thing we're going to learn. I love that. It's so simple. It's just the E triad using the D shape. So we're right up here. Middle finger's on the 4th fret, 1st string. So play your D chord and just slide it up 2 frets. We're going to play strings 3, 2, and then what I do is I go ahead and make the E sus4. So we're doing a sus4 again by putting my pinky down on the 5th fret 2nd string, or 5th fret 1st string rather. And then take your pinky off, so you have this. So I'm going 4, 3, 2, and then strings 1 and 2 at the same time as my pinky comes off. And then watch this. That's just the C chord. I was thinking triads again. C chord using the A shape. All I needed was that triad there. Strings 4, 3, and 2 on the 5th fret. And then here's that Lydian sound. Hear that sound? It's just so cool. So what I'm doing for that, I'm keeping the triad there. And then my pinky comes down on this, or you could use your ring finger, on the 7th fret 2nd string. And then watch this. I go right back to the minor pentatonic scale. So you can see we're just going back and forth between chord shapes, minor pentatonic. Minor pentatonic scale pattern 4 for E. So that's 10th fret 2nd string, bend and release. 8th fret 2nd string, and then 9th fret 3rd string. And then another little lick from pattern 4 of the minor pentatonic. So that's sliding up to the 9th fret 4th string. And then you've got your 7th fret 3rd string. That overdrive really gives it that sound, that kind of nasally clash of notes. We slide it back down to the 7th fret 4th string. And then we go 5, 7, 5th string. Let's listen to all this now with a jam track so we can put it in context. All right, so the next thing that happens goes. And so what I'm doing for that is 5th fret, 4th string, 7th fret, and then we're going to do a hammer on from the 7th fret to the 9th fret on the 4th string while I play the 3rd string on the 7th fret. So there's a little bar there on that 7th fret, playing strings 4 and 3. So it's, and then we're going to do the same thing here. So we take that and slide that down 2 frets, and then play strings 4 and 3 again, hammer on this time to the 7th fret. Now this is your C chord, right? These are just embellishments off of that C chord shape. I'm talking about this all the time. There's your C chord using the A shape, rather. So it's actually the C chord using the A shape. But over here you've got all these little embellishments off of the chord shape triad. So. And then after that, I switched to the bridge pickup to get a different tone and played. So this is just straight out of the blues. It's minor pentatonic scale. We're going to play strings 1 and 2 here. That's the 7th fret 1st string, 8th fret 2nd string. This is pattern 4 of the minor pentatonic scale. And then we're going to go 9, 7, 9 on the 3rd string and 4th string. So we have, and then watch this, 2 slides, 9th fret 4th string, 7th fret 3rd string, and then we're going to slide it back down to the 7th fret 4th string, 5th fret 4th string, and then 7th fret 5th string. So all together it's actually a pretty simple lick. And then open E. And you're doing all of that, playing it a little more aggressively to give it a real nice punch of overdrive there. And actually, when I played that open E, I came down and hammered on to this note, 1st fret 3rd string, out of the E chord. Just playing the E chord, but hammering on my index finger. And then the open 1 string. Alright, I think I'm going to end the first part here. We've covered a lot of material. Just remember to take some of these elements where you take the chord tones, you take the notes out of the chord, and you mix it with the minor pentatonic. That's really the key behind this whole thing. Obviously that Lydian thing is thrown in there as well, but the real guts of it is chord tones mixed with the minor pentatonic scale. Alright, that's really all I have time for in this video. If you'd like to join us for the rest of this, I've got that in the part 2 video. You've also got access to the tablature and the MP3 jam track, so you can put it all together and practice everything. You can get all of those things again by going to activemelody.com, go to the weekly lessons page, and do a search for EP442. Alright, we'll see you in part 2.